Give it up the one, the only, Bailey Mickle.
Hello. Are you guys all having a super jolly good one? Fuck yeah. I too am having a super jolly good one. KFC and Taco Bell both have their own flavors of Mountain Dew. I think Arby's should get their own flavor and call it Beefy Blast. When I was younger, I was told that I kind of looked like Kurt Cobain and Kid Rock, depending on the type of person that I was talking to. And Kurt Cobain and Kid Rock do look similar if Kurt had chosen meth instead of Courtney Love's heart-shaped box. Do you guys have any friends that you know really well online and offline? And online, they're totally different people? It's like personality brought to you by Twitter, Articulate, and it's brought to you by ChatGPT. I have a friend who anamorphizes animals. I go over to his house, and he's like, "Oh, my dog's smiling at you." No, he's showing his teeth. He's growling. He wants to eat me. I have another friend who has a pet snake, and I go over to her house, and she's like, "Oh, look at my snake. He's cuddling with me." No, he's trying to constrict you. He's sizing you up. He wants to eat you. I've got another friend who likes to push her cat around in a stroller and call it her kid. You can't push pussies past your pussy. That's not your kid. It all started after I Googled stuffing mules with snowballs. I guess it's bestiality. I didn't know that snowballing mules was swapping your cum back and forth in its mouth. I thought it was turning him into reindeer. Yeah. So I found out recently that birds aren't real, so I'm going to have a talk with my neighbor because I've got shit on my car constantly. Birds also aren't reals. You can't use them to pull your fish in when you're fishing. And birds aren't reals. You can't scroll through them on Instagram. And birds aren't ill. The bird flu is likely manufactured by the government. That's not true, but I've said birds aren't real so many times that the surveillance devices that you're all carrying, your cell phones, are going to have ads now. You're welcome. I went over to my buddy's house the other day, and he was like, "Hey, make sure you use a coaster." I was like, "Motherfucker, we're in a landlocked state. There's no coast here." So have you guys ever been to a pool in a poverty-stricken neighborhood? You know, poor people pools. Poor people pools are way different than wealthy people pools because at poor people pools, you've always got parents fucking their kids up with pool noodles. They're only $1. And at wealthy people pools, you've got parents talking about their iPhones and their hairdressers while their children are playing. It's interesting to watch children drown while their parents are distracted by capitalism. Have you guys heard of smurfing? It's a young people term that I don't quite understand. But whenever I saw it, it was at a gaming lounge, and it was in big letters on the wall. It said, "No smurfing." So I guess blue lives don't matter there? I guess they don't care about what Gargamel eats or turns to gold. Like I said, it's a young people term, and I may look young, but the Army prematurely aged me by shacking me up near a porta potty when I was in Afghanistan. Which now I have Pavlovian reactions every time I'm near a porta. So when you ring the bell, the dog starts to salivate because he thinks food is coming. And when I see porta potties, I am coming. It kind of reminds me of the snake lady I used to date. And I don't call her that because she was evil or conniving. She really knew how to handle snakes. She broke up with me because I'm boring, which is understandable, but I would have built her reptilian ass a human-sized terrarium. Electric bill be damned. She could have laid her eggs in a porta potty, and I would have followed her in and fertilized them. Or however snakes reproduce. I don't think it's that, but I'm not that kind of doctor. I am a doctor, however. I got a doctorate in generic studies. It took about $5, 15 minutes, and a brief questionnaire. I bet you guys feel silly about your student loans now. So after she broke up with me, I got on the highway, and I'm driving, and I noticed this individual had been following me for about 20 minutes. So I got over into the other lane and tricked him into passing me, and I followed him home. I sat outside of his house for a few days. I checked his mail. The woman living with him has a different last name. They're living in sin. And I know they're fucking, because I watched through the window. And I wasn't the only one watching. They had a toddler in the room, which me personally, I wouldn't fuck in front of a toddler. But I assume it's the same principle as fucking in front of people with Alzheimer's. They won't remember, so it's okay. I followed this guy to work the next day, and he works at an elementary school, which is a strange place to work if you're fucking in front of toddlers. And my cover was blown because all of the children outside were doing the arm pump, which is a universal sign for honking your horn, so I did. I was like, beep, beep. And they all lost their fucking minds. So my cover was blown, so I stopped following this guy, and I started continuing on my drive home. Have you guys ever been to Claremore? Yeah. Fuck yeah. Claremore's wild. Claremore has roads, and these roads have names like Patty Page, Lynn Riggs, Will Rogers. And Claremore did them dirty by putting railways on these roads. So Patty Page, Lynn Riggs, Will Rogers have trains being ran on them constantly. It causes congestion. Normally, trains release buildup. Not these trains. They cause a lot of buildup. So after this train finally passes, I go over the railway and I have to urinate, so I stop at this gas station and I go in, and I felt discriminated against because the bathroom had a sign up that said, "This is not a masturbation station." Then why the fuck does it smell like a porta potty? So I'm in there masturbating as one does, and there's a glory hole next to me, and this individual decides to use the glory hole. And I don't normally go for this sort of thing, but I needed the money. So I grabbed a hold of his tallywhacker, and I pulled out my handy-dandy cigar cutter. And I was like, "Drop your wallet, buddy. This is a robbery or a circumcision. The choice is yours." He chose robbery, so drinks tonight. Fuck yeah. Make sure you tip your bar staff and pick up some drinks because they're delicious and the bar staff is lovely. So after I've left this masturbation station, I need a little bit more money, so I decide to DoorDash. So I get on DoorDash, and I get my first order is to this place called Three Natives. So I get in there, and there are 3 white women working. They must be Elizabeth Warren-style natives. It reminds me of when I go to Captain D's, and I walk in, and the person behind the counter is not just a giant cock with an eye patch over its spitting eye and a little bird to take my order, like pirates have. Or when I go to Burger King, and it's not a big, juicy burger behind the counter with a little bit of mustard dripping out, just the way I like it. It reminds me of this sandwich shop that I go to frequently. I always ask for a wee bit of mustard, and these motherfuckers always turn my sandwich into the Yellow Submarine. And if I complain, then I become a Karen, so I just have to accept this Simpsons dick sandwich. I still put it in my mouth, though. It's okay. I used to work in a haunted house. I worked in the one that Gene had this year. It was really cool. If you guys didn't go through, you should go through when it comes around next year. It kind of reminded me of my childhood, though, because I sat in this dark room. And it was pretty quiet in my room, but I could hear people screaming in the rooms near me. And then when people came into my room, there was complete silence because I don't exist, just like my childhood. Coffee grounds are a strange thing to me because ground is hard and coffee grounds are soft. So I think they should call them soft coffee sands because sand is delicious. That made so much more sense in my mind. I'm pretty sure I'm cursed. I feel like I've been cursed for like 10 years or so. It all started after I went down on this old lady who had been near my house since the 50s. My parents warned me about digging up graves, but I didn't stop them. Or I didn't listen, and now I've got queef cunt's curse. Oh, man. Hey, it's unloading meat. That's what we're doing here, so. Okay, so I feel like I could have been a cop in a past life because I really fuck with donuts, and I'm so resentful about being bullied in high school. Sometimes I try to bring donuts to my friends at D&D, but they're feverishly frightened of my formidable glaze. They can't believe it's not Bailey's butter. And that's about my time, folks.